Hi guys! Today in the dream spell we have the energy of the white magnetic wizard. And maybe you've been feeling this, and I'm inviting you to track those days. There is an app called 1320 Sync, and you can see the energy of every single day. I will go into more in-depth explanation of the dream spell, but it's very interesting because when you start to look at the synchronicities that you are experiencing every single day, there is a more of an alignment to the present moment. So, for example, today with the wizard, we have this characteristic of timelessness. And it's magnetic because it's the first one in the wave spell of the 13 days. So it's the archetype that will magnetize things to you, will manifest things in the next 13 days. So the more that you become aware of this archetype within you, the more that you can magnetize whatever you want in your life. So this idea of timelessness is quite important for the wizard, because when you arrive in the here and now, when you become so present within yourself, you become this instrument and this vessel for magic and enchantment to flow through you. So there is no more force, there is no more doing of magic, but you allow magic to happen. You are mystery and magic embodied. And this can only be done in silence when you get into the space of timelessness, and it usually happens through the heart space. So the journey from the mind to the heart is one that this archetype of the wizard is asking us to take. So I'm inviting you as well to check if you have this archetype within your galactic signature. And if you resonate with it, it's beautiful because it can truly help you to see how everything comes from that space. And it is very connected to the jinkies, and I will talk about the 10th jinki, which we have one more day of this transit. But during these days, with the archetype of the wizard and the jinkies and so on, we are putting a little bit more emphasis on the heart space and the identity center. This is in human design, the identity center. I will talk about the heart space, the identity center. But first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. I am so glad that you resonate, because I've been receiving messages and also emails, and it's beautiful when you also talking about the 10th jinki, you embrace your energy, your unique frequency, and you put that out into the world. And I've been doing that with so many things in the last few years, with so many ideas, because my life's work is the 41st. 41 is my number. And so for me, this being this vessel for ideas, for new, for inspiration, for innovation, sometimes it's very strong, and I need to express it in one way or the other. And to have found this medium, like I've been playing with so many different things, but to be here right now and sharing this with you, allowing myself to be so open so that magic can be channeled through, messages can be channeled through, is beautiful and divine. And I couldn't be here if I wouldn't have you to hold space for that and to receive. right? Because it's always a giving and a receiving, which brings me to the two cards that I just pulled. The Lovers is the first card, and it's also very connected, which they always are, to karmic justice in the oracle. So giving and receiving, and balancing out the scales. We've been talking about that in the other videos, that you do not have to always be thinking about how do I balance things in my life? How do I make sure that I don't overgive, right? Or how can I heal my relationship to receiving? You don't always need to be doing that kind of healing. If you allow yourself to come into silence, into the silence of being, the still point, what happens is a natural balancing out. It's a natural justice that is being done through the divine. So this is an invitation for a relaxation, for a softening. It's the 10th Jinki. Again, as I said, we have one more day for this. The sun is transiting until tomorrow evening, this 10th Jinki. The city is about being, but another word for being is this divine laziness. And you can almost you can think how many parts we have within us that are managing aspects of our lives to not drop into laziness, to not allow ourselves to rest too long or to go too slow with the 15th Jinki. So this idea of being patient, the 5th Jinki, and the 5th Jinki is connected to the 15th. So idea of patience and impatience, right? And being in that still point for as long as it takes until you have this impulse for movement. Because only in that still point can you recognize the truth. Can you see the truth? And I recognize that I'm saying recognize a lot. It's very interesting for me to notice my own patterns and how I play with language. So this still point, this third point of noticing the polarities of, for example, different options is very important when you have to also make a decision. Right now we are transitioning, so a lot of us are still in this purging space. Identities are still being fermented, are still being distilled. Things are still being let go of. Masks are still burning away. And we will have to take a choice, to make a choice when we transition into the new year, right? If you follow the Gregorian calendar. And anyway, let's say that we have this window of January to March where we will be in limbo, in between. And so it takes me to this card, to the duality of this card, and seeing the duality and being the third point in between. There's so many layers to tarot, and I'm just literally, for the last few months, I'm getting into it. And it's beautiful. It's already helping me so much. But just one of the aspects of the Lover's card that goes beyond romance, it goes beyond relationships. And of course, relationships are being transformed right now, especially because we got the karmic justice. So whatever karmics you had in your environment, maybe you see the truth right now and you see that you had past lives with them and you were playing out the same story, but right now you actually broke that. And there's another layer. Congratulations. So you can choose another path. But choosing and having discernment, this is also about the lovers, it's about having discernment. Choosing where you go next, January, March, will be very important. It comes from this point, from this resting point, this divine laziness of the being. And you are not being pulled in any direction, neither from your passions or like excitement, the curiosity, nor from, you know, your parents, your, let's say, south node energies. So in this still point, you see and you feel, you sense the energies and how you are being stirred and what is being moved within you. And you give yourself the time with the 15th Jinki and the Wizard to feel what the next decision is, and if the next decision comes from integrity. And integrity is just one more very important keyword when we talk about lovers. So how can you be so present during these days so that the distortions that you still have can't come with you where you're going? They cannot survive anymore. The distortions, the illusions, the programming. This is exactly what this transit is still asking of us. Slow down even more so that you can actually feel what is happening and what has happened. As I mentioned in the other video, is allowing the process, the Ouroboros, to complete itself. And the 10th Jinki is, I don't know, I always want to say my favorite Jinki, but there is no such thing because I've been studying the Jinkis for the last 3.5 years. And every single time I dive into it, into the teachings, the wisdom, and I contemplate the concepts and embody them, I unlock new doors. And it's almost like a gift that keeps on giving. It's so beautiful, but definitely the 10th Jinki, and I have it in my EQ sphere, has been one of the most important keys that I have unlocked this year. Being home with my family, with my parents, with my grandparents, with my sister for the last 7 months. is I have received this very important message when I was abroad that I have to come back to Transylvania in order to do the real healing here with the ancestral spirits that are living here on this land, and that I cannot continue moving around, or I was living in Costa Rica, continue on my journey if I do not do this work. As my cage was very, I don't know how to explain it. I want to say like it was very closed, but of course, like the karma that I was burning through, it really felt very heavy. So coming back home and doing this work for the last few months has been monumental for my own journey. And when we talk about journey, we also talk about the 10th gene key, because this gene key, is talking about going on a journey to discover yourself, to know yourself. It's always asking the question, who am I? Who am I? Doesn't even go into what am I. It asks, who am I? And it's a journey that you have to take in order to realize that you cannot receive a permanent answer to who you are. And when you realize that, when you get this epiphany, it's like, wait a second, I've been trapped on this journey of the seeker, right? Like this part of me that has been driving the show for so long. You sit with it and you recognize, wait a second, there is nothing for me to find out. There is just a resting in beingness. And when this realization, it's almost like a mic drop, like, or like a beat drop. Like when it drops, you have this, it feels like fireworks. It feels like an explosion into naturalness, which is the gift of the city, of this gene key. Why do I say the city? So the gift of this gene key is the energy of naturalness. So you just become natural with who and what you are. Like animals, like animals, they cannot not be natural. They cannot be someone else. So you just rest in silence, in the silence of who you are in this present moment, knowing that you are enough. But the shadow of the 10th gene key is self-obsession. And so many of us have gone through this, or we're going back and forth, right? And we're still dealing with that, with the shadow of self-obsession. Is when you are so concerned about your own uniqueness, so concerned about your own individuality, that you don't even have space for anyone anymore. You don't have space in your psyche for other people. And that's when other people are just, they are just like a projection of your field, right? Like you don't really see them. You don't really, you don't see past your own filters, past your own projections. And this is like the shadow, like, of people who, for example, always want to help others, like the savior, or they want to change others for the better, of course, but it's very hard for them to actually truly see another person because they're so concerned with themselves. And so, of course, like, we have, you know, different sides. We have the repressed and the reactive version. So, for example, there are the narcissists, which are so paranoid that other people will steal their uniqueness, and they're afraid to lose themselves in relationships and in groups. And, you know, there are these people who also, not necessarily narcissists, and I don't really like this word, it gets thrown out a lot, but there are these people who always want to run away or escape the ordinariness, like, you know, like they're afraid that they are just common. This is also the shadow of the 15th jinki, is the shadow of dullness, like, you know, the fear of being ordinary, like you're just ordinary. It's like, so there are these people that just want to escape that and they run away from that. It's like, no, I am. And then we put on masks, right? I am like this priestess, the mystic, the oracle. And we get on more and more labels to define ourselves. Because that's what the ego tries to define itself. Until at one point, if we're really truthful, if we're really honest with ourselves, we get to a point where there is a divine exhaustion. Like your mind just like, it lets go. And this is also called an ego death. And so then you get back to the Fool card, or to the Negretto stage, where you are just in this dying process. Because you recognize that you've again tried to put labels on something that cannot be identified. And this is very different from having a functional persona. It's very different from being on this natural individuation process. It's a distortion of the individuation process. It's when you stop trusting the natural unfolding of your being. It's when you stop trusting the mystery. You you continue mystifying your life instead of participating in life, instead of being with life. And you don't see that each day is just another piece of the puzzle. It's just another key, and you're receiving all these keys. But on the shadow side, there is this self-obsession. It's like, no, I need to know, right? And then, like, your life force is just being constricted. And that's why you cannot play, you cannot be at ease. It's because, like, everything is there. So you're always concerned with the self and what the self is doing and how can I get better, but how can I, right? And this is the realm of the reactive. And then the repressive is the self-denial, of course, like self-abandonment. Most of the people, unfortunately, the ones that are not on a spiritual path, the ones that didn't see the divine within them, didn't recognize it, they are still trapped in this zombie state, or the martyrdom, you know. So within these two, you come to rest. You come to a point where you give up the fight, where you give up the journey. Of course, you have to be on the journey in order to let go of the journey. You have to be in an identity or to have an ego in order to be able to let go of the ego. But this process, you know, the process of from the shadow to the gift to the city. It is a process. And the more that you can slow down, 15th, slow down. That's what I'm doing with this retreats, the 3-day retreats, the reset. We slow down so that we can actually listen. And not only listen to, like, what is my next step? Who am I? Because all of this will happen. But it's also a quieting of the nervous system. Because a lot of the program, a lot of the conditioning is stored there. And Gene Key number 10 works with this conditioning that most of us have been conditioned to be someone else than we actually are, our true selves. That's why we are here. That's why I'm here. That's why we do this deconditioning work. To get back to our innocence, to get back to our true self. So, silence, it's magical. And it is the absolute best teacher. Especially if you combine silence with the art of contemplation from the Gene Keys, with somatic work. It works miracles. And I talk about this direct and indirect path to liberation, to awakening. And silence is the direct path, but we have to talk as well. And by talking, I don't mean expressing with words. We have to move, to allow expression to come, allow the human to go through the journey of in the labyrinth, search and die and search again and awaken and, do all these things. But then we also have to come to the silence and have a very beautiful balance between them. Because when we manage to achieve that balance, we come back into heaven on earth, into this way of being. And I truly believe that this is the way to go, is by balancing these two things, the direct and the indirect path of awakening. Because we've tried the direct, the path of the mystic, the path of, for example, like you go into retreats, into Vipassana retreats, for example, and you study with Zen monks, or you go to India and you do this kind of like, let's say, a month of a retreat, and you access that state of awareness, that state of silence, of presence. However, I've also met a lot of people that, they fall into the same ways of being. And so we also tried the second one, with psychology and trauma healing. And right now, what I feel that is necessary, and what I feel that a lot of people recognize and realize and are doing anyway as space holders, is to merge the two paths. And in order for you to do that, you have to go through the journey yourself. You have to go through both roads, right? The direct and the indirect path to liberation. And so, yeah, if you're interested in that, please let me know. I'm holding space for this 3-day reset retreats. It's just one-on-one. We go into a container where I look at your charts and I provide guidance 2 times a day. And also, if you want readings, I'm doing free readings for you. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here, beautiful people. I am excited for what's to come. I would have loved to, I can talk about the Jinkies forever. I would have loved to dive deeper into the 15th Jinky. However, I feel that right now I'm also going to go into my own space of silence. I'm holding space for my first retreat coming up, and I'm excited to hear from you. If you like this video, please like or comment. And yeah, I'm just very, very curious to see what comes next for us, right? Because we have so many predictions of next year, 2026. And I feel that most of us have this compass and most of us have this knowing of what is happening, this big shift. And a lot of us are already holding space. They're already like, embodying their healer archetypes. And they're, like, we have already a lot of guides that are helping us on this path. And I hope that more and more people will come, and more of you will actually recognize how talented you are and how many gifts you have, and that you will put yourself out there, and you receive that that confidence to be in those gifts, right? So yeah, I have full trust in the plan. So have a beautiful time, beautiful holidays, and I will see you in a few days. Maybe, let's see, before the new year. Take care.